You set the fire. I just stopped pretending it wasn't burning.
The smoke was billowing from under the hood of the silver Mercedes when I pulled into my driveway at 3:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. My first thought wasn't about the car fire or whose expensive ride was dying in my driveway. My first thought was simpler. Well, this is going to be interesting. I'd been driving for 6 hours straight from Dallas, where my biggest client had just told me my construction consulting contract was terminated, effective immediately. No explanation, no severance, just a handshake and a thanks for your service. 23 years of marriage, 2 daughters, and a mortgage that could choke a horse. And now this burning Mercedes was somehow the cherry on top of my disaster Sunday. The front door was unlocked, which was unusual. Sarah always locked the door, even when she was home. I could hear voices upstairs, her voice, high and panicked, and a man's voice I didn't recognize speaking with a thick accent that sounded Eastern European. "Tom, is that you?" Sarah called from upstairs, her voice cracking with what sounded like genuine terror. I took the stairs 2 at a time, following the voices to our bedroom. The door was locked from the inside, which was definitely not normal for 3 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. "Sarah, open the door." "Tom, thank God you're here. Something terrible has happened." I could hear scrambling inside, whispered arguments, and what sounded like someone trying to get dressed very quickly. The accent was clearer now, definitely Russian or Ukrainian. "Open the door, Sarah, or I'm breaking it down." More scrambling than the click of the lock. Sarah opened the door wearing her bathrobe, her hair disheveled, makeup smeared. Behind her, hanging upside down from our bedroom ceiling fan by what looked like climbing rope, was a man I'd never seen before. He was conscious but clearly dazed, wearing nothing but boxer shorts and a look of absolute terror. Written across his chest in black Sharpie marker were the words, "I hope he was worth it." "Tom, this isn't what it looks like," Sarah said, which was probably the stupidest thing she could have said under the circumstances. The hanging man, who I was already starting to think of as Dmitri based on his accent, was trying to speak, but the pressure in his head was making him incoherent. "Really?" I said, walking over to examine the ropework. "Because it looks like you were having an affair and someone decided to string your boyfriend up like a piñata at a very adult party." "Please," Dmitri gasped. "Get me down from here." I looked at him for a long moment, then at Sarah, who was clutching her bathrobe like it was body armor. "You know what, Dmitri? I think I'll leave you hanging for a minute while my wife explains how her afternoon went." Sarah started crying, which was her go-to move, whenever she was caught doing something she shouldn't be doing. It had worked when she was 25 and had accidentally spent our rent money on a designer handbag. It wasn't going to work now. "The car outside? That's yours, I assume?" I asked Dmitri. He nodded weakly. "Well, the good news is that it's not going to be repossessed. The bad news is that it's currently on fire in my driveway, and I don't think your insurance is going to cover this particular situation." I walked over to our bedroom window and looked down at the Mercedes. The fire department hadn't arrived yet, but I could see Mrs. Dorsey from next door recording everything with her phone. By tomorrow morning, this would be the talk of the entire neighborhood. "Tom, please," Sarah said. "Let me explain." "Oh, I think the situation is pretty self-explanatory. The only question I have is whether you strung him up yourself or if someone else did it for you." Dmitri was starting to turn purple, so I figured I'd better cut him down before he passed out completely. I grabbed a kitchen knife from the nightstand drawer. Sarah always kept one there for protection, and sawed through the rope. Dmitri dropped to the carpet like a sack of potatoes, gasping and trying to get his circulation back. "There you go, Romeo. Now get dressed and get out of my house before I decide to call the police." "Tom, wait," Sarah said, grabbing my arm. "We need to talk about this." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. 23 years of marriage, and I was seeing her clearly for the first time. "No, Sarah, we really don't." I walked downstairs, grabbed my phone, and called my lawyer. The fire department had put out the Mercedes fire by the time I finished my phone call with Jim Patterson, my attorney. Jim had been handling legal work for my construction business for 15 years, and he'd seen his share of messy divorces. "Tom, I need to ask you this straight up," Jim had said. "Did you have anything to do with that car fire?" "Jim, I just got home 20 minutes ago. The car was already burning when I pulled in." "Good. Keep it that way. Don't do anything stupid while you're angry. Let me handle this legally." But as I watched the tow truck haul away the burned-out shell of Dimitri's Mercedes, I wasn't thinking about doing anything legally. I was thinking about the look on Sarah's face when she realized her perfect little affair had just gone up in smoke. Literally. The next morning, Sarah came downstairs wearing her best wounded wife outfit, yoga pants, oversized sweater, and the kind of carefully applied makeup that was supposed to look like she hadn't been wearing any. "Tom, we need to talk about what happened yesterday." I was sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee and the divorce papers Jim had messengered over at 7 a.m. I didn't look up. "The only thing we need to talk about is how quickly you can find somewhere else to live." She sat down across from me, and I could smell her perfume, the expensive stuff she only wore for special occasions. Apparently trying to save her marriage qualified. "I made a mistake, Tom, a terrible mistake. But we can work through this." I finally looked up at her. "Sarah, I found you in our bedroom with another man tied to our ceiling fan. This isn't a mistake. This is a lifestyle choice." "It was only one time." I laughed, which seemed to surprise her. "Sarah, nobody learns to tie knots like that for a one-time thing. And judging by the way Dimitri was hanging there, this wasn't his first rodeo either." She started crying again, but this time it felt more calculated. "Tom, I'm pregnant." I set down my coffee cup very carefully. "Congratulations. I hope Dimitri is excited about becoming a father." "It's yours, Tom. The baby is yours." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. I'd been researching private investigators since 5 a.m. "That's great news, Sarah, because Ray Kowalski here specializes in paternity testing, among other things. He'll be very interested to hear about your pregnancy." Her face went white. "You can't be serious." "Sarah, I've been serious about exactly 2 things in my life. Our marriage was one of them. Finding out the truth is the other one." My phone buzzed with a text message from a number I didn't recognize. "Your wife's boyfriend wants his car fixed. Tell him to go to heck. Ray." I showed Sarah the text. "Looks like your boyfriend is already trying to cause problems. Good thing I've got a professional on my side now." Sarah stood up abruptly, knocking over her chair. "Tom, you don't understand what you're getting into. Dimitri isn't just some random guy. He has connections, dangerous connections." "Are you threatening me, Sarah? I'm trying to protect you." I stood up and walked over to the kitchen counter where I'd left the business card Ray had given me over the phone. "Ray Kowalski, private investigator, former Dallas PD detective, 25 years, specializes in infidelity cases and background checks." I looked back at Sarah. "If Dimitri has dangerous connections, then Ray will find out about them. And if you're lying about the pregnancy, he'll find out about that too." Sarah grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" "To work. Some of us still have jobs." After she left, I called Ray back. "Ray, it's Tom Mitchell. I want to hire you." "I figured you would. Meet me at Murphy's Gym on Elm Street at 2 o'clock. And Tom, bring cash." Murphy's Gym was the kind of place where serious people went to hit things. The equipment was old, but well-maintained, and the clientele looked like they'd rather be punching each other than making small talk. Ray Kowalski was exactly what I'd expected from his voice. Mid-50s, gray hair, built like a fire hydrant, and the kind of direct stare that probably made criminals confess just to make him stop looking at them. "Tom Mitchell? That's me." We shook hands, and his grip was like a vice. "Let's talk in Big Al's office." Big Al turned out to be the gym owner, a former heavyweight boxer who looked like he could still go 10 rounds with anyone stupid enough to challenge him. "Ray tells me you got woman trouble," Al said, settling behind his desk. "My wife is having an affair with someone who might have criminal connections." "Might have?" Ray asked. "She said he has dangerous connections. Could be she's just trying to scare me off." Ray pulled out a notebook and a pen. "Tell me everything you know about this guy. His name is Dimitri. He drove a silver Mercedes. He has a Russian or Ukrainian accent, and yesterday I found him tied up in my bedroom." Ray's eyebrows went up. "Tied up how?" "Hanging upside down from the ceiling fan. Someone had written, 'I hope he was worth it,' across his chest." "You do that?" "No, I was in Dallas when it happened." Ray made some notes. "Any idea who did?" "No clue." "What about your wife? She seemed surprised to see you?" I thought about that. She seemed panicked, but not surprised. More like she was expecting something bad to happen. "Interesting. What's your wife's full name and where does she work?" "Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Maiden name Harrison. She's a paralegal at Brennan, Moss & Associates downtown." Ray wrote that down. "I'll need a photo of her and any information you have about her daily routine." "How much is this going to cost me?" $500 a day plus expenses. I'll need 3 days up front. I handed him $1,500 in cash. What exactly are you going to do? First, I'm going to find out who Dimitri really is. Then I'm going to find out how long this affair has been going on. Then I'm going to find out if your wife is really pregnant. And if she is, whose baby it is. How can you find out if she's pregnant? Ray smiled for the first time since I'd met him. Tom, I spent 25 years as a cop. I know how to get information people don't want to give up. Is it legal? Everything I do will be admissible in court. Big Al leaned forward. Tom, you ever do any boxing? Not since high school. Might want to start again. Ray tells me this Dimitri character might be connected to some rough people. Good to know how to defend yourself. You think it'll come to that? Ray and Big Al exchanged a look. Tom, Ray said, in my experience, when someone strings up your wife's boyfriend and sets his car on fire, things are probably going to get complicated. That evening, Sarah came home late from work, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that she seemed nervous, checking her phone constantly and jumping every time a car drove by outside. Everything okay? I asked. Fine, just a stressful day at work. She went upstairs to shower, and I heard her talking on the phone in the bathroom. The conversation was too quiet for me to make out the words, but the tone was definitely argumentative. When she came back downstairs, she was wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Going somewhere? Monica invited me out for drinks. Girls' night. Monica was Sarah's best friend from law school, a divorce attorney who specialized in taking rich men to the cleaners. If Sarah was meeting with Monica, she was probably getting advice on how to maximize her settlement. Have fun. After Sarah left, I called Ray. She just left for girls' night with her divorce attorney friend. Perfect, I'll follow her. You stay home and don't do anything stupid. What would be stupid? Going through her stuff, confronting this Dimitri guy, or doing anything else that might compromise the investigation. Got it. But after I hung up, I found myself standing in front of Sarah's dresser, looking at the jewelry box where she kept her important papers. Inside, underneath her passport and birth certificate, was a pregnancy test. Negative. I took a photo of it with my phone and sent it to Ray. An hour later, he called me back. Tom, we need to talk. Can you meet me at the diner on Highway 6? What did you find out? Not over the phone. Just meet me there in 20 minutes. The diner was nearly empty when I arrived. Ray was sitting in a back booth, looking grim. Your wife isn't pregnant, he said without preamble. I know. I found the pregnancy test. There's more. She didn't go out for drinks with Monica. She went to a motel on the south side of town. With Dimitri and 2 other men. Russians, based on the license plates and the way they were dressed. Ray slid a manila envelope across the table. Photos. I opened the envelope and immediately wished I hadn't. The photos showed Sarah entering a motel room with 3 men, one of whom was definitely Dimitri. Tom, I need to tell you something else. I ran Dimitri's plates before his car got torched. His real name is Dmitry Volkov, and he's got connections to a Russian money laundering operation that runs through several car dealerships in Dallas. Money laundering? They buy expensive cars with dirty money, then sell them to clean the cash. Your wife's law firm handles some of the paperwork. I stared at the photos, trying to process what Ray was telling me. Are you saying Sarah is involved in money laundering? I'm saying she's involved with people who launder money. Whether she knows it or not is a different question. What do we do now? Ray leaned back in his booth. Now we figure out who strung up Dimitri and burned his car, because whoever did it just declared war on some very dangerous people. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time a car drove by, I found myself checking the windows, half expecting to see Russian gangsters in the driveway. Sarah came home at 2 a.m. reeking of cigarettes and cheap cologne. How was girls' night? I asked from the living room couch. She jumped like she'd been shot. Tom, you scared me. Why are you awake? Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about that pregnancy test I found in your jewelry box. Even in the dim light from the hallway, I could see her face go pale. You went through my things? Sarah, we're getting divorced. Your privacy rights expired when I found Dimitri hanging from our ceiling fan. She sat down heavily in the armchair across from me. The pregnancy test is old, Tom, from before. Before what? Before I knew for sure. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo I'd taken of the test. This test is dated 3 days ago, Sarah, and it's negative. She stared at the phone screen for a long moment. I can explain. I'm sure you can, but I'm not interested in explanations anymore. I'm interested in the truth. What do you want to know? I want to know how long you've been sleeping with Dmitri. I want to know if you're involved in his money laundering operation, and I want to know who strung him up in our bedroom." Sarah's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Money laundering? Tom, what are you talking about?" I leaned forward. "Dmitry Volkov, Russian national, connected to a money laundering ring that runs through car dealerships in Dallas. Your law firm handles paperwork for some of his associates. You want to keep pretending you don't know what I'm talking about?" Sarah stood up abruptly. "I don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do. Because tomorrow morning, I'm filing for divorce, and I'm going to make sure the court knows about your boyfriend's criminal connections. You can't prove anything." I held up my phone. "I can prove you lied about being pregnant. I can prove you've been meeting with Dmitri and his associates at cheap motels, and I can prove your law firm has been doing business with money launderers." Sarah walked over to the window and looked out at the street. "Tom, you don't understand what you're getting into. These people don't play games." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started playing with them." She turned back to face me. "Someone is trying to set me up. The thing with Dmitri in our bedroom, that wasn't random. Someone wanted you to find us like that." "Who?" "I don't know. But whoever it was knows about the money laundering, and they're using it to manipulate the situation." I stood up and walked over to where she was standing. "Sarah, I'm going to ask you one more time, and I want you to tell me the truth. How long have you been having an affair with Dmitri?" She looked me in the eyes for the first time in months. 6 months. "And how long have you known about the money laundering?" I suspected something was wrong about 2 months ago. Some of the paperwork didn't make sense. Car sales that were too clean, too perfect. "Did you tell anyone about your suspicions?" "I told Monica." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "You told Monica Harrison, the divorce attorney, that you suspected your boyfriend was involved in money laundering?" "She's my friend, Tom. I needed someone to talk to." I pulled out my phone and called Ray. "Ray, it's Tom. I need you to run a background check on Monica Harrison, divorce attorney. Sarah's been telling her about the money laundering. I'll get on it first thing in the morning." After I hung up, Sarah was staring at me. "You hired a private investigator?" "I hired a former police detective who specializes in catching cheating wives and their criminal boyfriends." "Tom, you need to call him off. If Dmitri finds out you're investigating him..." "What? He'll hang himself from my ceiling fan again?" Sarah walked over to the couch and sat down. "There's something else I need to tell you." I waited. "The night before you found us, someone broke into Dmitri's apartment. They didn't steal anything, but they trashed the place and left a note." "What kind of note?" "A warning, in Russian. Dmitri was terrified." "What did the note say?" "Something about staying away from married women or facing consequences." I sat down next to her. "Sarah, do you think Monica might have..." "No, Monica doesn't even know Russian, but she might know someone who does." Sarah looked at me with something that might have been respect. "You really think Monica set this whole thing up?" "I think Monica is a divorce attorney who specializes in destroying unfaithful husbands, and I think she just got handed the perfect case to practice on." The next morning, Ray called me at 7 a.m. "Tom, we need to meet. I've found something interesting about Monica Harrison." "What kind of interesting?" "The kind that explains why your wife's boyfriend ended up hanging from your ceiling fan." We met at Murphy's gym again, and this time Big Al was working out with a heavy bag that looked like it had seen better days. "Monica Harrison," Ray said, settling into the office chair, "graduated from law school with your wife 15 years ago. Since then, she's handled over 200 divorce cases with an average settlement of $1.2 million per case. That's a lot of money. It gets better. 3 years ago, Monica's husband left her for his secretary. The divorce was ugly, and Monica ended up with almost nothing because her husband had hidden most of his assets offshore." Ray pulled out a file folder. "Since then, Monica has become very interested in cases involving financial fraud and hidden assets. She's also developed some interesting connections in the Russian community." "What kind of connections?" "The kind that can translate threatening notes and know how to tie nautical knots." I stared at the file. "You think Monica set up the whole thing? The break-in at Dmitri's apartment, stringing him up in my bedroom, burning his car? I think Monica saw an opportunity to destroy your marriage, implicate your wife in a money laundering scheme, and collect a huge fee for handling your divorce. But why would she do that to Sarah? They're supposed to be friends." Ray leaned back in his chair. "Tom, In my experience, the people who hurt you the most are usually the ones who know you best. Big Al stopped hitting the heavy bag and walked over to the office. Ray, you might want to take a look outside. We walked over to the window. In the parking lot, a black SUV with tinted windows was idling next to my truck. How long has that been there? Ray asked. About 10 minutes, Big Al said. 2 guys inside, both wearing suits. Ray pulled out his phone. Tom, I think your investigation just got a lot more complicated. The black SUV followed me home from the gym, staying about 3 cars back, but never trying to hide the fact that they were there. When I pulled into my driveway, they drove past slowly, and I got a good look at the driver, a heavy-set man with Slavic features and the kind of dead eyes that suggested he'd done things he wasn't proud of. Sarah was waiting for me in the kitchen, and she looked terrified. Tom, we need to leave. Right now. What happened? Dmitri called. Someone broke into his apartment again last night, but this time they left more than just a note. She handed me her phone. The screen showed a photo of Dmitri's living room, which had been completely destroyed. Furniture overturned, electronics smashed, and spray-painted across the wall in red letters, "Stay away from the Mitchell family." Sarah, who took this photo? Dmitri. He's scared, Tom. He thinks you're behind this. I showed her the view from our front window where the black SUV was now parked across the street. Does that look like I'm behind anything? Those are Dmitri's friends, and they're watching our house. Sarah looked out the window and immediately stepped back. Oh, God. Tom, what have you done? I hired a private investigator to find out the truth about your affair. Apparently, the truth is more complicated than either of us thought. My phone rang. Ray's number. Tom, don't go anywhere. I'm on my way over with backup. What kind of backup? The kind with badges and arrest warrants. 20 minutes later, Ray pulled up in front of the house with 2 unmarked police cars. The black SUV immediately started its engine and drove away, but not before Ray got their license plate number. Detective Maria Santos was Ray's former partner, a compact woman in her 40s who looked like she could handle herself in any situation. Mr. Mitchell, we need to talk about your wife's relationship with Dmitri Volkov. We sat in the living room. Me, Sarah, Ray, and Detective Santos. Mrs. Mitchell, how long have you been aware of Mr. Volkov's criminal activities? Sarah looked at me, then back at Detective Santos. I suspected something was wrong about 2 months ago. Some of the legal paperwork my firm was handling for his associates seemed suspicious. Did you report these suspicions to anyone? I discussed them with my friend Monica Harrison. Detective Santos exchanged a look with Ray. Mrs. Mitchell, we have reason to believe that Monica Harrison has been manipulating this situation for her own benefit. That's impossible. Monica is my best friend. Ray opened his file folder. Sarah, Monica has been planning this for months. She knew about your affair with Dmitri, she knew about his criminal connections, and she's been setting up a scenario where your husband would discover the affair under the most damaging circumstances possible. Why would she do that? Detective Santos leaned forward. Because Monica Harrison specializes in high-dollar divorce cases involving financial fraud. Your case could be worth millions to her in legal fees. Sarah stared at them. You're saying Monica orchestrated everything? The break-in at Dmitri's apartment, the thing with the ceiling fan, burning his car? We're saying Monica has connections who could have done those things on her behalf. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Meet me at Rosewood Park in 1 hour. Come alone. M. I showed the message to Detective Santos. That's Monica, Sarah said. She always signs her texts with M. Mrs. Mitchell, we're going to need you to call Monica and arrange a meeting. We want to hear what she has to say. I can't do that. She's my friend. Ray looked at Sarah with something that might have been pity. Sarah, your friend has been destroying your marriage and putting your family in danger to make money off your divorce. She's not your friend anymore. An hour later, we were all positioned around Rosewood Park. I was sitting on a bench near the playground, wearing a wire. Ray and Detective Santos were in an unmarked car about 50 yards away. Sarah was at home with a police officer, supposedly for her own protection. Monica arrived exactly on time, looking like she'd just stepped out of a courtroom, perfectly dressed, perfectly composed, and carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my truck. Tom, thank you for coming. Monica, what the heck is going on? She sat down next to me on the bench. Tom, I need you to understand that everything I've done has been to protect Sarah. By destroying her marriage? By exposing the truth about her marriage. Sarah has been living in a fantasy world, thinking she could have an affair with a criminal and there wouldn't be consequences. Monica opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick file folder. Dmitry Volkov isn't just involved in money laundering, Tom. He's connected to human trafficking, pills distribution, and at least 3 unsolved homicides in the Dallas area. She handed me the file. Sarah was going to leave you for him. She was going to take your daughters and disappear into his world. I couldn't let that happen. I flipped through the file. It contained police reports, financial records, and surveillance photos that painted a picture of Dmitry as a much more dangerous man than I'd imagined. So you decided to play God? I decided to save your family. By having Dmitry strung up in my bedroom, by burning his car, by terrorizing him into staying away from Sarah. Monica smiled, and for the first time, I saw something cold and calculating in her expression. Tom, I didn't have to terrorize Dmitry into staying away from Sarah. I just had to make him believe that you were capable of doing much worse things than hanging him from a ceiling fan. What are you talking about? The break-ins at his apartment, the threatening notes, the vandalism. Dmitry thinks you're behind all of it. He thinks you're some kind of criminal mastermind who's been stalking him and his associates. Monica closed her briefcase. And now that he's convinced you're dangerous, he's going to leave town and never come back. Sarah's affair is over, your marriage can be saved, and your family is safe. I stared at her. Monica, you've been manipulating everyone. Me, Sarah, Dmitry, we're all just pieces in your game. It's not a game, Tom. It's justice. No, it's revenge. You're angry about your own divorce. So you decided to destroy everyone else's marriage, too. Monica stood up. Tom, you can see this situation however you want, but the result is the same. Your wife's affair is over and your family is safe. She started walking away, then turned back. Oh, and Tom, you might want to check your bank account. Sarah has been embezzling money from your construction business to pay for her affair. I've documented everything. After Monica left, I sat on the bench for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. Ray and Detective Santos eventually walked over. Did you get all that? Every word, Detective Santos said. Monica Harrison just confessed to conspiracy, harassment, vandalism, and about 6 other felonies. What happens now? Now we arrest Monica and her accomplices, and you and Sarah figure out what's left of your marriage. But when we got back to the house, Sarah was gone. The police officer who was supposed to be protecting her was unconscious on the living room floor, and there was a note on the kitchen table written in Sarah's handwriting. Tom, I'm sorry for everything. I've gone to make things right. Don't try to find me. Sarah. Ray looked at the note, then at me. Tom, I think your wife just went to confront Dmitry. Detective Santos called for backup and an ambulance for the unconscious officer while Ray and I tried to figure out where Sarah might have gone. The officer came to just as the paramedics arrived, and he had a story that made my blood run cold. 2 men came to the door, he said, holding an ice pack to the back of his head. They said they were with the FBI, showed me badges and everything, said there was an immediate threat to Mrs. Mitchell, and they needed to move her to a safe location. Did you see what kind of car they were driving? Ray asked. Black SUV, same one that was watching the house earlier. Detective Santos got off the phone with a grim expression. Tom, we just got word that Dmitry Volkov was found dead in his apartment 20 minutes ago. Single fatal wound to the head. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Sarah? We don't know, but we need to find her fast. Ray was already on his phone, calling in favors with his contacts in the police department. Within minutes, we had an APB out on Sarah and a BOLO alert for the black SUV. Tom, Detective Santos said, I need you to think. Where would Sarah go if she was trying to make things right? What does that mean? I thought about the note, about Sarah's state of mind, about everything that had happened over the past few days. Monica's office, I said suddenly. Sarah would go to Monica's office. She'd want to confront her about the manipulation. We raced across town to the downtown law building where Monica had her practice. The building was mostly empty. It was after business hours, but the security guard let us in when Detective Santos showed her badge. Monica's office was on the 15th floor. The elevator seemed to take forever. When the doors opened, we could hear shouting from down the hall. Sarah's voice, high and angry, and Monica's voice trying to sound calm and reasonable. You destroyed my marriage! You destroyed everything! Sarah, I was trying to help you. Ray motioned for us to stay back while he approached Monica's office door. It was partially open, and through the gap we could see Sarah standing in front of Monica's desk, holding what looked like a tool. Sarah, Monica was saying, put the tool down. This isn't going to solve anything. You had Dmitri taken out, didn't you? You couldn't just let him leave town? You had to make sure he was permanently out of the picture? Sarah, I didn't order anything like that. Dmitri was eliminated by his own associates. They thought he was cooperating with the police. Ray signaled to Detective Santos, who moved to cover the other side of the door. I stayed back, but I could hear every word. You're lying, Sarah said. Just like you've been lying about everything else. You never cared about protecting my family. You just wanted to destroy my marriage so you could make money off the divorce. Sarah, even if that were true, ending me isn't going to bring Dmitri back or save your marriage. My marriage was already dead. You made sure of that. I couldn't listen anymore. I stepped around Ray and walked into the office. Sarah, put the tool down. She turned to look at me, and I could see that she'd been crying. The tool in her hand was shaking. Tom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I know you are, but this isn't the way to fix it. There is no way to fix it. Dmitri is dead, our marriage is over, and Monica gets away with everything. Monica, who had been standing behind her desk, suddenly lunged forward and tried to grab the tool from Sarah's hand. In the struggle, the tool went off. The bullet went wide, shattering the window behind Monica's desk. Ray and Detective Santos rushed into the room and quickly subdued both women. Nobody move! Detective Santos shouted, her own tool drawn. Sarah collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Monica was on the floor, nursing a cut on her forehead, a trickle of red where she'd hit the desk during the struggle. Tom, Sarah said, looking up at me. I didn't end Dmitri. I found his body when I went to his apartment to end things with him. He was already dead. Ray helped Monica to her feet and secured the cuffs around her wrists. Monica Harrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy, harassment, vandalism, and being an accessory in a fatal incident. I didn't have anyone hurt, Monica protested. Detective Santos was already on her phone, coordinating with the crime scene team at Dimitri's apartment. Tom, she said after hanging up, the preliminary investigation suggests that Dmitri was ended by his own associates. They found evidence that he was planning to cooperate with federal authorities in exchange for protection. I looked at Sarah, who was still crying. Sarah, why did you go to Dimitri's apartment? I wanted to end it. I wanted to tell him that I was going to try to save our marriage, that I couldn't see him anymore. But he was already dead when you got there? Yes, the door was open, and I found him in the living room. I panicked and ran. Monica, despite being handcuffed, was still trying to control the situation. Tom, you need to understand that everything I did was to protect your family from a dangerous criminal. I walked over to where she was standing. Monica, you didn't protect anyone. You manipulated everyone for your own benefit, and now a man is dead. Dmitri Volkov was a criminal who would have destroyed Sarah's life. Maybe, but that was Sarah's choice to make, not yours. Detective Santos finished her phone call. The federal task force has been tracking Dimitri's organization for months. They believe his homicide was ordered by his superiors because they suspected he was going to cooperate with law enforcement. So Monica didn't have him ended? No, but her actions may have contributed to his death. By making it look like Dmitri was being stalked and threatened by you, she made his associates suspicious about his loyalty. Ray looked at Monica with disgust. You didn't just manipulate people, Monica. Your manipulation got someone ended. As the police led Monica away, she turned back to Sarah. Sarah, I was trying to help you. Everything I did was because I cared about you. Sarah looked up at her former friend. Monica, if you had really cared about me, you would have talked to me instead of destroying my life. After Monica was gone, Sarah and I sat in the empty law office, trying to figure out what came next. Tom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. I looked at my wife, really looked at her for the first time in months. Sarah, I don't know if our marriage can survive this, but I know it can't survive any more lies. No more lies, she said. I promise. Then tell me the truth, all of it. How long were you planning to leave me for Dmitri? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I wasn't going to leave you, Tom. The affair was stupid and selfish, but I never wanted to leave our life together. Then why did Monica think you were going to run away with him? Because I told her I was thinking about it. I was angry and confused, and I said things I didn't mean. I stood up and walked over to the shattered window, looking out at the city lights. Sarah, I need some time to think about all of this, about whether we can rebuild what we had. I understand. But first, We need to deal with the legal mess Monica created, the embezzlement charges, the connection to Dimitri's criminal organization, all of it. Sarah looked surprised. What embezzlement charges? I turned back to face her. Monica said you'd been stealing money from my construction business to pay for the affair. Tom, I never stole money from your business. I used my own savings. I pulled out my phone and called Ray. Ray, I need you to check something for me. Monica claimed Sarah had been embezzling from my business. Can you verify whether that's true? I'll check your business accounts first thing in the morning. After I hung up, Sarah and I sat in silence for a while. Tom, do you think there's any chance we can save our marriage? I looked at her, at the woman I'd loved for 23 years, who had betrayed me with a criminal, who had been manipulated by her best friend, who had just held a tool on that same friend in a misguided attempt to make things right. Sarah, I honestly don't know, but I know that if we're going to try, we need to start with the truth. All of it. No more secrets, no more lies, no more manipulation. I can do that. Can you? Because the truth is that I don't trust you anymore, and I don't know if I ever will again. Sarah started crying again, but this time it seemed genuine rather than calculated. Tom, I know I've destroyed everything we built together, but I want to try to rebuild it, if you'll let me. I walked over to where she was sitting and looked down at her. Sarah, rebuilding trust takes time, a lot of time, and it requires complete honesty from both of us. I can be honest? Then start now. Is there anything else you haven't told me about the affair, about Dimitri, about Monica's manipulation? Sarah thought for a moment. There is one thing. Monica didn't just know about my affair. She encouraged it. What do you mean? She kept telling me that you were taking me for granted, that I deserved better, that I should explore my options. She practically pushed me into Dimitri's arms. I felt that cold feeling in my stomach again. Sarah, how long ago did Monica start encouraging you to have an affair? About 8 months ago, right after she found out that Dimitri's organization was going to be one of our law firm's clients. The pieces were starting to come together. Sarah, I think Monica has been planning this for a lot longer than we thought. The next morning, Ray called me with information that changed everything. Tom, I checked your business accounts. There's no evidence of embezzlement, but I found something else interesting. What? Monica Harrison has been receiving payments from a federal task force that's been investigating Russian money laundering operations. I almost dropped the phone. Monica is working for the feds? Was working for them? She was supposed to be gathering information about Dimitri's organization through her law firm's connection. But it looks like she went rogue. What do you mean? Instead of just gathering information, she decided to manipulate the situation to destroy the organization from the inside. The affair between your wife and Dimitri wasn't just convenient for Monica's divorce business. It was her way of getting close to Dimitri and his associates. Sarah, who'd been listening to my side of the conversation, went pale. Tom, what is he saying? I put the phone on speaker. Ray, Sarah is here. Can you explain what you just told me? Sarah, Monica has been using you as an unwitting informant in a federal investigation. She encouraged your affair with Dimitri because she needed access to information about his criminal organization. Sarah sat down heavily. You're saying Monica manipulated me into having an affair so she could spy on Dimitri? That's exactly what I'm saying. And when the federal task force told her to back off because they were ready to make arrests, she decided to take matters into her own hands. By having Dimitri strung up in our bedroom, by making it look like your husband was a dangerous man who was capable of violence. She wanted to scare Dimitri into making mistakes that would expose his criminal associates. I looked at Sarah, who was staring at the phone in shock. Ray, does this mean Sarah could be charged as an accessory? No, the federal prosecutors are satisfied that Sarah was an unwitting participant. But Monica is looking at federal charges for obstruction of justice, interfering with a federal investigation, and conspiracy. After Ray hung up, Sarah and I sat in the kitchen, trying to process what we'd just learned. Tom, I feel so stupid. I thought Monica was my friend. Sarah, you couldn't have known. Monica is a professional manipulator. She fooled everyone. But I still had the affair. I still betrayed you. Monica didn't force me to sleep with Dimitri. I looked at my wife, who seemed smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. No, she didn't force you. But she created the circumstances that made it more likely to happen. Does that make it less wrong? I thought about that for a long moment. Sarah, I don't know. What I do know is that our marriage was in trouble before Monica started manipulating the situation. If it hadn't been Dmitri, it might have been someone else. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe we both need to take responsibility for the problems in our marriage. You for having the affair and me for letting our relationship deteriorate to the point where an affair seemed like an option. Sarah reached across the table and took my hand. Tom, do you think we can work through this? I looked down at our joined hands. Sarah, I want to try, but it's going to take time, and it's going to require both of us to be completely honest about what went wrong. I can do that. Can you? Because being honest means admitting things that might be painful for both of us. Sarah squeezed my hand. Tom, I'll do whatever it takes to save our marriage. Over the next few weeks, we started couples counseling. It was awkward and painful, but it was also honest in a way that our marriage hadn't been in years. In therapy, Sarah admitted that she'd felt neglected and taken for granted. I admitted that I'd been so focused on my business that I'd stopped paying attention to my wife's needs. Tom, Sarah said during one session, I'm not trying to excuse the affair, but I felt invisible in our marriage, like I was just there to take care of the house and the kids while you pursued your career. Sarah, I thought I was working hard to provide for our family. I didn't realize you felt neglected. Our therapist, Dr. Jennifer Walsh, nodded. This is a common dynamic in long-term marriages. Both partners can become so focused on their individual responsibilities that they stop connecting as a couple. But that doesn't justify having an affair, I said. No, it doesn't, Dr. Walsh agreed. But understanding the underlying problems can help you address them so they don't happen again. Meanwhile, the legal situation was resolving itself. Monica was facing federal charges and had been disbarred. The task force had arrested several members of Dmitri's organization, effectively shutting down the money laundering operation. Ray continued to update me on the investigation. Tom, the federal prosecutors want to meet with you and Sarah. They need your testimony about Monica's manipulation of the situation. Are we in any legal trouble? No, but your testimony could be crucial in proving that Monica went rogue and interfered with their investigation. The meeting with the federal prosecutors was surreal. Sarah and I sat in a conference room with 3 FBI agents and 2 federal attorneys, describing how Monica had manipulated our marriage for her own purposes. Mrs. Mitchell, one of the attorneys said, we need you to understand that your affair with Dmitri Volkov was not illegal, but it did complicate our investigation. I understand, Sarah said. I'm sorry for any problems I caused. The problems were caused by Monica Harrison, not by you. She was supposed to be gathering information, not manipulating personal relationships. After the meeting, Sarah and I drove home in silence. Tom, do you think we'll ever get past this? I thought about everything that had happened. The affair, the manipulation, the lies, the violence, the federal investigation. Sarah, I think we're getting past it. Slowly, but we're making progress. I love you, Tom. I know I have a terrible way of showing it sometimes. But I do love you. I reached over and took her hand. I love you too, Sarah. That's why I'm willing to work through this. 6 months later, Monica Harrison was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. The judge was particularly harsh in his sentencing, noting that her actions had not only interfered with a federal investigation, but it also resulted in the death of Dmitri Volkov. Miss Harrison, the judge said, you were entrusted with upholding the law, and instead you chose to manipulate and destroy the lives of people who trusted you. Your actions contributed to the death of a man who, despite his criminal activities, might have lived if you had not interfered with the federal investigation. Sarah and I were in the courtroom for the sentencing. As Monica was led away in handcuffs, she looked back at Sarah one last time. I'm sorry, she mouthed. Sarah didn't respond. After the sentencing, we went home to our daughters, who had been staying with Sarah's parents during the worst of the legal proceedings. Dad, is everything going to be okay now? Beth, our older daughter, asked. Yes, sweetheart. Everything is going to be okay. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Sarah and I looked at each other. No, I said. Mom and I are working things out. That evening, after the girls were in bed, Sarah and I sat on our back porch, looking out at the yard where this whole nightmare had started, with a burning Mercedes and a man hanging from our ceiling fan. Tom, do you ever think about how different things might have been if Monica hadn't manipulated the situation? Sometimes, but I think we would have ended up dealing with the problems in our marriage one way or another. Do you think we're stronger now? I considered that question. Sarah, I think we're more honest now. Whether that makes us stronger remains to be seen. I'm grateful that you were willing to fight for our marriage. I'm grateful that you were willing to do the hard work of rebuilding it. Sarah leaned against me, and for the first time in months, it felt natural and comfortable. Tom, I promise I will never lie to you again. And I promise I will never take you for granted again. We sat there in the growing darkness. Two people who had been through heck together and somehow managed to find their way back to each other. The next morning, I got a call from Ray. Tom, I wanted to let you know that the federal task force has officially closed the Volkov investigation. Monica's interference actually helped them identify and arrest more members of the organization than they had originally expected. So, something good came out of this mess? You could say that. A major money laundering operation has been shut down, several dangerous criminals are in prison, and your marriage survived. Ray, I can't thank you enough for everything you did. Tom, that's what friends are for. Besides, it was the most interesting case I've worked in years. After I hung up, Sarah came into the kitchen. Who was that? Ray, the federal investigation is officially closed. So, it's really over? It's really over. Sarah poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. Tom, I've been thinking about what Dr. Walsh said about making our marriage a priority. What about it? I want to quit my job at the law firm. I looked at her in surprise. Sarah, you love your job. I love the law, but I don't love working for a firm that was involved with money launderers, and I want to spend more time focusing on our family. What would you do instead? I've been thinking about starting my own practice. Family law, but helping people rebuild their relationships instead of destroying them. I smiled. That sounds perfect. Will you help me set it up? Sarah, I'll help you with anything you want to do. She reached across the table and took my hand. Tom, I know we still have work to do on our marriage, but I feel hopeful for the first time in months. So do I. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized that Monica's manipulation, while destructive and criminal, forced Sarah and me to confront problems in our marriage that we had been ignoring for years. The affair was a symptom of deeper issues, and addressing those issues made our relationship stronger than it had ever been. It took 2 years of counseling, countless difficult conversations, and a commitment from both of us to rebuild trust, but we made it through. Our marriage survived Monica's manipulation, Dimitri's death, and the federal investigation. More importantly, we learned to communicate honestly with each other, to prioritize our relationship, and to never take each other for granted again. Sarah did start her own family law practice, specializing in helping couples work through their problems instead of just facilitating divorces. She's become one of the most respected family attorneys in the city. I restructured my construction business to have better work-life balance, and I make sure to prioritize time with Sarah and our daughters. Our daughters, Beth and Janie, adjusted well to everything that happened. We were honest with them about the problems in our marriage, and they appreciated our commitment to working things out. Monica Harrison served 3 years of her 5-year sentence and was released on parole. She moved to another state and, as far as I know, is no longer practicing law. The Russian money laundering organization was completely dismantled, with over 20 arrests and millions of dollars in assets seized. Ray Kowalski became a good friend, and he still occasionally helps me with background checks for my construction business. Big Al's gym became a regular part of my routine, and I discovered that I actually enjoy boxing as a way to relieve stress. The house where all of this started is still our home. We replaced the ceiling fan in the bedroom, repaired the damage from the Mercedes fire in the driveway, and created new, better memories to replace the painful ones. Sometimes I think about how close we came to losing everything: our marriage, our family, our future together. Monica's manipulation could have destroyed us completely. But instead, it forced us to confront the truth about our relationship and do the hard work of rebuilding it on a stronger foundation. Sarah was right when she said that Monica's actions had made things right in an unexpected way. Not through violence or revenge, but through forcing us to be honest with each other and fight for what we really wanted. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's real in a way it never was before. We know each other's flaws and weaknesses, and we've chosen to love each other anyway. That's not the ending I expected when I found Dimitri hanging from our ceiling fan, but it's the ending we created together through honesty, hard work, and forgiveness.